Okay, let's start again. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's class. Tonight is very special because we are going straight into hands-on based on what we learned yesterday. So today we're going to be setting up a very simple knowledge base with frequently asked topics and live chats. Okay, this is going to be part of your individual project. So if you're still going to be with me or with us after this training, please try to pay attention to this. If you also ever want to work as a consultant, this is something you'll be asked to do. Okay, maybe not set up a live chat, maybe not set up a frequently asked topics, but you will be working with community and you will be transferring things from Salesforce into the community cloud. You would also be creating permissions, visibility, and likes for community projects. Okay, this is the future of Salesforce. This is why I need to make sure that you get it right. Without wasting much time, let me tell you a breakdown of how we're going to approach things. First of all, let me create a brand new org. So we are doing things from scratch. Okay, I'll call this knowledge management setup. Okay. And we'll wait for it to load. While this is building up, let's go into the breakdown of the things we're going to do. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to set up knowledge. We're going to activate a user for knowledge. We are going to obviously maybe create some data categories. We are going to assign user, and we're going to just set up knowledge generally because knowledge is very important for the community and we have to set it up. The second thing we're going to be doing is set up the experience site. I did that yesterday, but again, I'm going to give you an overview about set it up again. And we're going to go into setting up a chat. And after that, we're going to set up articles. This is very important. We missed one step yesterday, and that step probably cost us a lot of time. But today, we're going to see how we're going to see how to overcome that challenges that we faced yesterday. And as well as we are going to learn one or two things regarding articles. Then we're going to set up topics. Yesterday, there were some challenges with topics, but today we're going to set it up correctly. And we're going to give a simple example of how to use topics. And for the builder, we're going to publish our site and we're going to be able to use the site outside of a secure environment. That means you don't have to log in before you access the site. Okay. And after that, we're going to go into the mock certification questions. Okay, this will take, setting up a trailhead can take a bit of time. I think it's set up right now, so that's good. I'm just going to quickly launch. So I'll be going back and forth just to see I don't miss any step within the setup knowledge because it's very important. But again, because I've done this before, it's going to be easier and faster, hopefully. And if there's anything we miss, we're just going to look back into the setup process and see if we can quickly fix it. So the first thing first is understanding knowledge. Like I said earlier, knowledge is just a repository of information, okay? Information whereby you can use to help your agents. By agents, I mean customer reps, customer support team, okay? So the reason why you use knowledge is just to bring information together and create consistent information for your customers. Okay. So for instance, you might want to maybe build a scalable system whereby you have a very high number of shunning employees. By shunning, employees shunning, meaning that they're quitting customer representative job and you're struggling to retain your customer rep. Maybe you cannot pay them maybe the amounts they want and they just keep leaving. And the problem with that is this. If you keep training people and after 3 months they leave, then you have to constantly train people. Okay? But with the knowledge repository, it becomes easier to just say, check this article and you'll be able to resolve a case based on the article. So you eliminate the need to train every other time you recruit an agent. Okay? So that's the benefit of knowledge. Knowledge gives you articles, well-written frequently asked questions, and the solutions to those frequently asked questions. Okay. So now, if we want to set up knowledge, the first thing we need to do is we go to setup and we'll go to users. It's very important to identify users that want to have access to knowledge because knowledge is a feature of the Service Cloud. It's not like part of Service Cloud, meaning that you have to buy license. For instance, if you go to company information, you will see the number of licenses you have, and you can see feature licenses, which include knowledge. Okay, so if you don't have enough licenses to use knowledge, you cannot set up knowledge. You need to be able to have someone that can set up knowledge in the system. So the first thing you do is make sure that this guy has knowledge access. Okay, admin do not get knowledge access out of the box. If you don't have knowledge license, you don't get to see the option. Okay, if I go to Blackforce website, for instance, Blackforce Salesforce platform, you wouldn't see this knowledge user because we don't have knowledge license. Okay, it's very important you identify the user that wants to use knowledge. After that, you will enable knowledge. So how do you do that? You can type in knowledge, or you can refresh this. No, the first thing is you refresh, so enable knowledge, so knowledge can come up. Knowledge. As you can see previously, because I haven't enabled a user that would get access to knowledge, knowledge wasn't coming up. But when I enabled a user that will get access to knowledge, knowledge came up. Okay, so I enable knowledge and I accept the condition. One of the conditions is once you enable knowledge, you cannot revert knowledge. Okay, you cannot revert knowledge. The knowledge tab will be available to all standard profiles. And enabling Salesforce knowledge is not reversible. That means you cannot reverse it. However, you can hide it from the user. Okay, so now that we've enabled knowledge, we can now use knowledge. One of the things that you probably want to do is you want to enable knowledge for Lightning. Okay, you can do this via two ways. You can do this right now, or you can do this during your setup in service setup. Okay, so but because we're already here, we might as well just enable activation status field, enable knowledge lightning, enable the rich test, and I save. So now I think we're good to go with knowledge. We have to go to the service setup. The service setup requires us to set up knowledge. Okay, so we go to knowledge setup. One of the benefits of running this is that it puts a lot of things behind the scenes you don't get to see. For instance, while setting up knowledge, you can also create categories, but most people don't have an idea of the categories they want to create. In addition to that, there's a limitation in terms of number of categories you want to create. So you have to be very careful when you start setting up knowledge. Okay, it's very important. So I go to start, and obviously because this guy has a knowledge access, I am granting this guy a knowledge access. Okay, if you have more users in the system, you can also grant them knowledge access. Then you just wait. It's going to ask you to create categories. But for now, we don't need to create categories. However, you can create categories while setting up a knowledge. We have to get into categories later. Okay, so I wouldn't create categories now. I'll click on next and I click on finish. So that's pretty much setting up a knowledge. And you can see that we have this knowledge menu here and we have categories and knowledge settings. Okay, so now we need to be able to create permission sets. So the reason why we're creating permission sets for knowledge is because we want to be able to assign several privileges for that user. Granting knowledge license does not mean that the user will be able to do things that we can do in knowledge. Okay, so you want to be able to create a permission set. And how do you do that? You go to setup and you create permission sets. Again, the permission set is for us to grant access to knowledge, features which knowledge can do. So I'm going to explain while we're doing that shortly. I'm going to create grant knowledge access permission sets. Grant knowledge access permissions, okay? And I don't select license. That means any user can do it. Okay, then I go to app permissions. I click on edit. And I go to the knowledge management, as you can see. allow view knowledge. Obviously, you don't just get view knowledge as output. You have to grant that access. Archive knowledge. If you don't grant the access to do all this, then this guy would not be able to do it. Okay. I think knowledge one is a classic knowledge, but we can still grant that in case you want to use classic within your org. Manage articles. This is a permission you have to grant a user. Okay. So I'm granting this user all this access, but then again, whatever user you're giving knowledge access to, you need to find out what the user wants to do. For instance, in terms of managing knowledge lifecycle, you can just grant a user the license to create knowledge, not to publish knowledge. You can grant access to view knowledge, but not to create knowledge or publish knowledge. So whenever you're setting up knowledge, it's very important to know what permissions you're giving the user that is getting that knowledge. Okay. So now we have that, and we go to manage assignments. We add a user, and I assign this user. So this user can now do whatever we want to do with knowledge. Okay. So after doing this, I need to go back to my setup, but I can do my setup from here. I want to add knowledge to my service console. But then again, you can add it to whatever application which you've created. Service console is what we're using. That's why I'm adding knowledge to service console. Previously, if you look at my service console, there is no knowledge, okay? There is no knowledge. This is my service console. There is no knowledge here. But now I want to add knowledge to the navigation. So I go to service console, I edit, and I go to navigation items. I go to knowledge. Oh, knowledge is there. Save. Refresh this. I should be able to see knowledge now. Okay, so now we have knowledge. And this is setting up knowledge. This is knowledge. But there is more to knowledge than just what we've done. For instance, we learned from yesterday that there is a life cycle involved when it comes to managing knowledge. How do you create articles? How do you update articles? How do you create page layout based on the type of articles you want? By articles, I mean records. You know, previously in admin class, we know that every object you have, you create records. But in knowledge, you call them articles, okay? Articles are what you create in knowledge. In other objects, you create records, and which we're fine with that. But according to Salesforce, when you're talking about knowledge, you're creating articles, okay? So let's kind of like see a typical way of creating a simple article in knowledge. I go to new, and by default, you get what they call a frequently asked question record type. So the type of article you're creating in the knowledge is based on the kind of information you want to present to the reader, to the user. Right now, we get out of the box a frequently asked question record type. If this is not the type of article you want to create, then we can create a new record type that would streamline these questions that you're asking the author. Okay, right now, because it's a frequently asked question, the only questions we can create is, the only options we have is questions and answer. But if it's a manual, if it is a procedure, if it's an article, then you might want to change the type of questions you are asking the user, okay? So let's just create a very simple frequently asked question, which is, when does the next cohort start, okay? Automatically, the URL name will pop up. And you can, the same question, so the title is different from question and answer, okay? So understand that the title is different from question and answer. I put it here, when does the next cohort start? Then you can give answer to when the next cohort starts, okay? Like what we did yesterday. I click on save, and now I've created knowledge. That's it. But there is more to just creating knowledge article. There's what they call the knowledge features. What are the knowledge features? The knowledge features, like I said earlier in our presentation of the theoretical part, you have what they call the version number, meaning that if you edit this knowledge, you can update the version number to the next version. So then the version number increases whenever you update the knowledge, okay? Number two, the first status of the knowledge is draft, meaning that when you create a new knowledge, the status is draft until you publish that knowledge. So if you are not someone that can publish a knowledge, you would create a draft and you can create an approval process to publish this knowledge. So the approval process, it will be when a knowledge is created, trigger an approval process that sends knowledge to your manager. Then the manager would now approve the knowledge. In addition to that, obviously, there is article number. Every knowledge has an article number. This article number is very important when you're migrating knowledge. So if you're migrating knowledge from one environment to the other, you want to check that there are no duplicate article number, because article number needs to be unique in the system. And obviously, we have the record type. The current record type is frequently asked question, but we can also create different record types based on the type of article we are creating. And I also said yesterday that you can vote on an article. This voting determines how useful this article is. How useful the article is. Upvoting means that when you're searching for a knowledge, this article will come up at the top because it has a higher ranking in terms of how helpful the article is. Okay? And there's what they call visibility of this article. Visibility is very important to business. There are two types of visibility. The first one is the one you determine who can see the knowledge in terms of whether it is internal people, customer, partner, and knowledge base. Yesterday, I explained we have the four types in terms of who can see article. The visible internal are those that have the knowledge license. They have the read only, and they can see this knowledge regardless. As long as it is published, they can see this knowledge. The other type is customer. Customer are your customer. When I explained customer yesterday, I told you that we have licenses, okay? We have licenses and we have what they call a customer license, okay? We have what they call a customer community license. So when you publish this article into your community, then a customer can read it. If you don't tick this, then the customer will not be able to see the article, even though the article exists in the system. And we have partner. Partner is when you're dealing with organization, you're dealing with companies. That's a B2B system. A B2C system is when you're dealing with customers, okay? Individuals. But when you're dealing with partners, then you need what they call a partner license, meaning that any partner that logs in to your org will be able to see this article, okay? And you have what they call the knowledge base. The knowledge base is for general people, meaning that if this article is published right now, as long as you have a community platform, anyone that have access to your community platform can see this article, as long as you've created the community platform to be visible to everyone, okay? We're going to see how that works shortly. This is another feature of the knowledge, okay? You also have created dates, you have the created by, you have the last modified by, and the likes, okay? And one thing you also have when you talk about knowledge is the categories. Categories are very important. The reason why categories are very important is because you can determine which of the agents can see the knowledge article, meaning that I can say billing articles are particular for this type of agents. Agents that have higher authority can see how to override a billing issue. Maybe within an article, there is a token that shouldn't be disclosed. Any agent that has ability to read that article will be able to see the token, okay? So you use what they call categories. And how do you set categories? You set categories by going to your setup and you do the categories, okay? There's what they call data categories. This is where you set up categories. So for us to publish this knowledge, if I click on publish, I can publish it now. and I can see this article. That is knowledge for you. However, you can still edit this knowledge. Once you edit this knowledge and you make changes to this knowledge, okay? Changes to, and you save. Okay? Once you save this knowledge, you can publish again. Once you publish this knowledge, you will see that the version changes to 2. Okay? So you need to understand that if you make edits, if you edit an article, you still need to publish it before it becomes visible again. Okay? But the previous version will still be visible. Okay? So now you have that. Let's go and create a category so we understand how the categories work. In Salesforce, you have limitations when it comes to category. In as much as you can create categories, you have up to you can create up to 5 categories, but I think only 3 categories can be active at a time. Okay, so what do you get with categories? Categories help you to determine which of the agents can view this article. So when you create this article, you can set the visibility of this article. What does that mean? It means that if this billing agent has visibility to this article, they'll be able to use it. But if this agent does not work in billing department, maybe they're working in subscribing department, and they'll be able to see articles related to subscribing. Similar to my learning. If this agent is good at my learning, then you give them visibility to articles that they can see. Okay, so this is very important. And let's just create like 3 examples of category group. I'll call this billing. Okay, the unique name automatically comes up. You give a description, billing, department, and you save. Once you have that, you can create a new one called subscription. No, you can call it, subscript. No, you can call it learning. Okay, so we have learning department. And the other one, I can call it maybe programs. Okay, programs department. Okay, so now that we have these categories, we can now start creating child categories under it. We don't have to create child categories, but child categories help us subdivide these categories. So in billing department, you can now have maybe professional subscribers. Okay, but you need to have thought about this. It's not something you create out of a thin air. You need to think carefully. Why am I creating categories? Why am I grouping categories? Why am I creating subcategories? It's very important. Okay, then we have, let's say in Blackforce, we have standard. So I'm going to create standard subscribers. So this article will be based on those subscribers that are related to standard. And then we have the basic. Okay. Similarly, we can go to learning. We can go to learning and we can create categories for learning. So I can say cloud, like marketing service cloud. Okay. Articles related to service cloud, marketing cloud, which gives me articles related to marketing cloud. And the likes, okay? So I wouldn't spend much time on this, but the most important thing here is this. Once you've created, let me just create, once you've created a category, you need to activate this category. If you don't activate this category, it will not be visible in the front end. That's number 1. Number 2, when you create category, there is a default settings for category. The first setting is if a user has a role, the data category visibility setting for that role determines whether they can have access to that categories. However, if the user does not have a role, then what should be the default settings? For instance, if a user does not have a role, do you want them to see all the categories, or you want them to see just a few categories, and you can select either of the categories you want them to see? Okay, so for now you're saying, okay, I want for visibility of billing, I want it to be all. visibility of learning, you can say all, but it's obviously you have to do it according to the business, okay? And visibility of programs, I want it to be all. So how do you set the visibility based on profiles? How do you set visibility of categories based on roles? You go to the setup. I refresh this so you can kick in. You go to the setup. You go to roles. Okay. You click on roles. And I just set up roles. You will now go to the role of that user. Let's say the user works in a customer support department. You click on the support department. And as you can see, there's what they call category group visibility settings. What does this mean? It means that you can set the role, you can set the visibility of VP marketing. Previously, by default, the visibility is inherited by the top ranked person. Okay, it's going down in terms of visibility. But then again, you can just set it to be whatever you want it to be. Okay, you can you can set none or you can inherit. So depending on what you just 1 minute, custom visibility, or you can determine just 1 minute. Okay, you can determine whether it's all, and you can take it off if you don't want it to be. Okay, but right now I don't want to control visibility because I have other tasks regarding visibility of this group. So I don't want to limit visibility of what I've created. Again, you can also manage whatever learning visibility it is. By default, it is taken from the highly ranked person. But if you're now going down, you can decide to say, okay, I don't want this guy to see, learning visibility. By learning visibility, I don't want them to see articles that are associated to learning, okay? But right now, I don't want to interrupt with the visibility because I need those categories for my topics. So I'm going to save it. And this is how to set visibility based on roles. Let's go to profiles. As you can see, you can set visibility based on roles, profiles, and other maybe permission sets. But let's just stick with roles and profiles for now. I go to system admin, which is my user profile. Then I go to category visibility, okay? Or you can scroll down to the end. You'll probably see it somewhere here. Yeah, category visibility. You can determine what roles you want this user to see, okay? By default, you can set the visibility based on roles and based on profile, okay? So now I've set visibility to all, so I can see that when I'm working with topics. Okay, so it's very important to know how you can use visibility based on roles and profiles, and you can also use visibility based on what you decide in terms of your customer, your partner, and the audience. Okay, so you've seen how we can create an article. You've seen the features of an article. You've seen the importance of article number. You've seen other features of an article. Now, let's create a different type of article called manual. Let's say, okay, no, not manual, steps. Let's say you want to register on Blackforce and people want to find out what exactly is the process I need to take in order to register on Blackforce. That is not a frequently asked question. That is a different type of article you want to create. Okay, so in order to create that, you don't have to go through the normal way of creating article, which is by default the frequently asked question article. You want to create a different type of article, and that is a procedure article or whatever it is you want to create. Procedure, step-by-step manual, whatever it is. The first thing you need to do is you go to knowledge. Just like you have in a normal Salesforce object, you have what they call the knowledge object. And the same way you create record types, you can create record types for manual, for procedures, for step-by-step. So I'll just call it how to, or I'll call it manual. I'll call it manual. Okay, manual. Sorry, I'll call it manual. Okay, before I create a record type, let me create a page layout, or let me create a field that will store information that has to do with manual, okay? Because previously, what we had is question and answer, which is a field, right? A field called question and a field called answer. And you're entering data into those fields. But for manual, it's not question and answer. It's something. It's something. So what could that be? It could be test area. just a test area where you write instructions or whatever you want to provide information for the user. So now I want to create a new field called test. And the field is test. Then I call this test. And the length of, you need to understand the different types of tests you want to select. If you select this test, it's going to be an input field, meaning that you want to enter a limited number of characters. If you select test area, it's going to be 255 characters. If you select test area long, it's going to be 131,072 characters. However, you cannot write it on separate lines, okay? And this, or you can write on a separate line, but this one helps you to format the text. That means you can use bold, italics, underlines, and the likes, okay? So ideally, you should be selecting a rich text area, okay? Because it helps you to format the kind of text which you want. I'll just use the max value here, okay? And after I have the max value, I click on next. Now, this is also very important, visibility of that field. As you know, in an admin class, the visibility determines which profile can see this text, which can see this text field. So if you set the visibility to all profiles, then all profiles will be able to see the text field, regardless of what they're doing. So if you want to create a text field that is private, again, I'm making reference to billing. So if you have a field that only people with higher privilege to see, then you can set that visibility of that field to that profile for that user. But now we don't think text should be hidden for anyone, right? Because we need that text for that user. So I'm going to click on next. Then I will select the layout. No, I will not select the, I can select knowledge layout for now because I want it to be on knowledge layout, but you can select this as well because there's no problem selecting this. It's just a case of, do I want this text to be on this layout? Yes, then I'm selecting it. Then I click on save. However, because I want to create a record type and I want to create a page layout that is different from what I currently have for the frequently asked question, then I have to create what I call a page layout. A page layout will now differentiate the type of questions, the type of information you can type in here. Again, I'm telling you that question and answer is based on the frequently asked page layout. But if you want a different page layout for procedure, then you have to create that page layout. I'll call it manual, or I can call it procedure, whichever it is, okay? I click on save and making sure that I have text, which I created. So after title URL, then a text box will come up, okay? And if you want to drag any other information like visibility, all those kind of stuff, you can drag it here, okay? But it's better to use the same style as we have here, properties, and we have created by and the likes, then we have visibility, okay? In order to do that, I need to create a 2-column session. So I go to session and I put session at the top. I call it properties. Okay. And I select 2-column because I want it to be splitted into 2. Okay. Then I click on okay. Then I drag all those things that I feel is cool to have on this article. Okay. Then I created by, that's fine. Then is there created dates? That's fine. You cannot even drag modify by, okay? But I want to drag visibility as well, okay? Because I want to set that visibility. There's no point dragging visible by internet app because anyone that have knowledge access would by default have read only and they'll be able to see it. But then again, let's just put it for justification's sake. So now I save. I have created a new layout for manual. Okay. Then I go to record types. I click on new and I select, I'll say manual page layout. Okay. manual page layout. Then I make it active. But more importantly, I assign it to the system admin. But I can make it default as well if I want to. But if I don't want to, I'll leave it like that. Okay. Next. And I say manual page layout is what I want to use. Okay. And I can select different page layouts for this profile, but I'm going with manual layout. Alternatively, I can just say, okay, by default this, then I go to individual, then I make sure that system admin is using manual layouts. Okay. But then again, it's totally up to you what you want to set. But the bottom line is you need to plan whatever you're doing before you start doing it. Okay. So now that I have a record type, I have a page layout, and I have a field, let's go back and create another type of article that is called manual. So I have to refresh this for it to kick in. And I click on new. Now it's asking me questions. Previously, I wasn't asked any question because by default, Salesforce gives us a frequently asked question knowledge. But now it's asking me what type of article would I want to create. I'm saying I want to create a manual page layout. Then you see the type of information I need to enter is different from the frequently asked question layout. Okay. So now I want to say how to subscribe to Blackforce. Okay. So now I have that. Then I say step 1, register on single login. Step 2, subscribe, click on my learning. Click on my learning. Step 3, subscribe. Okay, blah, blah, blah. You can do that. Then make sure that you select this if you want it to be visible to customer, to partners, or to be available to knowledge base. As you can see, the visible in internal hub is selected by default. That means you don't necessarily have to put this field here if you don't need it. However, we just put it there for you guys to be aware that we have this feature. I click on save. Now we have another article. This is knowledge. This is you creating different articles based on what you need. Okay. So now that you have this, and you can see that we have as you can see, we have this. I can change the layout to this. Okay. We have this, and I can just publish this article. Okay. Now this article is available for my customer or for my agent to use. So if you go to cases, go to all cases, then you can see that if you have this, you can now maybe look for knowledge. Yesterday, we couldn't see this. For some reason, we couldn't see this, but that was the reason why we couldn't see this yesterday was because I was looking for this and I was clicking on the knowledge, which takes me away from the knowledge, but that's not what I want to see. I want to be able to see knowledge by just looking for whatever knowledge I'm looking for. Then I type in when, then it gives me this. Then I can now say, attach knowledge to the case. That was what I was looking for yesterday. Okay. But now, as you can see, we have this field, but we cannot see much of the details. If I attach this article, it says, I have attached when does the next cohort start to this case. That means a customer has asked me, when does the next cohort start? And I attach that article to this case, and maybe I close this case because I have resolved this case. Okay? But you attach the article because you have used this knowledge to resolve this case. That's for agent productivity. But there is more to that. Okay, let's edit this page so we can see the articles that are attached to this knowledge. You do that by, first of all, you need to go or create a related tab. How do you create a related tab? You go to edit, and you click on this page, which is the page of interest, you close all this, and you can add a tab. This tab gives you details, but you want to change it to related, okay? Related. Where is related? Related. Let me just press R, okay? Products, related, done, save. Okay, so it gives you related. However, if you look at it, you still need to add components. Okay, you need to add component, but before we add that, okay, let me just add components called single related list. Okay, and this component, I want to add articles instead of activity history. Articles, okay? But it's telling me this related list cannot be displayed because it is not currently in the page layout, which is valid. I click on save. I take this off because it's not in the page layout. What do I need to do? I need to go back to my case page layout. Okay. And I go to case page layouts. And I go to the related of the case page layout. And I drag articles here. Okay. And I save. So now we have related in the page layout. If I refresh this page, I go back to related and I have articles, okay? So now we can see the articles that are associated to that knowledge. I save, I activate, assign to the org, which you need to do. In addition to that, you also need to make sure that you are assigning to the service console. If you don't assign to the service console, you will not see your changes, okay? So now that we've done those two, I go to my case, I go to my related, and I can see the articles associated to that case, okay? This is how to associate an article to a case. This is number one. Number two, when you receive an email, you don't want to start typing how to subscribe. Okay? You don't want to start typing how to subscribe, or you don't want to start explaining to the customer how to subscribe. How do you insert this article into an email and you send it? As you can see, we don't have email yet. First thing we need to do is go back to your case page layout and make sure that on the mobile lighting actions, you have email, okay? Drag email to the lighting action. That's number one. And go to your quick action. Make sure you drag email here as well, okay? So you have emails in both places. And I think that's good. Save. Okay? Then you go back here and refresh. This is still not coming up, okay? It's still not coming up. And the reason why this is not coming up is because, give me 1 minute. Yeah, this is not coming up because you have not enabled email to case, okay? In order for you to be able to send emails from your org, you need to enable email to case, okay? So I go to setup and I enable email to case. Remember, for you to send email out of the system, you need to have email to case enabled. Okay, so you edit this and you enable email to case, then you enable on-demand email for Salesforce to send email on your behalf, okay? And you can do all the settings if you want, but this two checked is enough for us to send email within the case objects, within the case field layout. Then I can refresh this and refresh again just to make sure. Close this. Okay, close this. Go to cases and go to, not close my cases, just click any one And let me go to the layout again, just to make sure that we have the right stuff. Mobile, email. I thought I have email already. What's the difference between this and this? That's strange. Okay, that's number one. Number two, let me save that first. Save. Number two, you need to have the email field that enable in the case field. Okay, so this is typically what they call the case feed, right? And you want to make sure that you can send an email in the case field. Okay, so you can attach an article in the case field. So one thing you want to do here is you want to make sure that in the case field, when you are attaching an article in an email, you can select the type of fields you want in that article. Okay, the lesser fields you select, the better. But then again, you have to be very careful what you're selecting, so you don't overwhelm the speed of the objects. Okay, so now that you have that, which is fine. More importantly, there is a field that needs to be checked, and this is it: enable inline attachment, which needs to be checked. You save that. Okay, that's number two. Number three, you want to set up communication channel on the knowledge object. If you don't set up communication channel on the knowledge object, you will not be able to send an email. Presently, you might probably look at the emails here and there's no email, and you refresh this. You might be able to send an email, okay, which is fine, but you still need to be able to attach that email to the case, attach that article to the case. Okay, you set up the email, which is okay. You can send email within the Salesforce, but you still need to be able to attach that article to the case, so you don't have to repeat yourself all the time. By repeating yourself is that you want to copy what this article is saying and you want to put it inside the email. Okay, so to do that, you need to go to knowledge. Okay, you need to go to knowledge, and you need to do what they call communication channel mapping. So you want to create what they call a new communication channel mapping for email. You click on new and you say email communication. Okay, you have email communication. You select available channel as email. You can only have one channel. You can only have one email channel mapping. Okay, the next one you can create is social. The next one is chat. The next one is messaging. That's fine, but you can only have one email channel mapping. Then you available fields that you want to drag, you need to put them here. So test, I want test to be there because of manual. I want question and answer to be there. Then maybe title, I want title to be there, okay? Then you can say don't attach related files to email and the likes. That's totally up to you. You click on save. Now you've enabled email communication channel, okay? You go back to this. Previously, we couldn't attach the article inside the email. I refresh. And I go to the email. Okay. Then I should be able to, one more thing you need to do, you need to be able to insert email. And that is in the support settings. You need to go to support settings and enable that as well. So two things you need to enable in the feed setting. You need to be able to insert, and in support settings, you need to be able to include an email. You need to be able to include articles in. Okay, I'm looking for articles. And there is one settings that we need to have here. Okay, just to enable defaults, that's fine. Enable email draft, that's fine. Enable question, that I need to have that enabled. I need to have that enabled. I need to have that enabled. But all this setup is just to make sure that you can attach the article into the case. Okay. I saved this, which I don't want to do this because this just sent an email to the default owner of the case anytime a new case is being generated. So I have that, and I want to make sure that in my case field, okay, in my case field, I have this definitely selected because that's also important for attaching this. Okay, I need to have enable inline attachment of enable attaching articles inline. Okay, so now that I have that, I can refresh this, or I can just open a new case because sometimes when you work on something, you have to close all the tabs for it to kick in. Okay, so I have this case, and I can say, okay, to go to emails, click here, refresh, and let me create a new case. New case, accounts, to Edge Communications. That's fine. Email, hi, that's fine. Working, I don't need to do all this. Okay, save. I go to the email. I want to send this article. How to subscribe. I look for the article. Oh, no. This stuff needs to kick in. Okay. Emails. Out. Set up. Okay, there's a setting that I need to do. Let me check. Let me check the settings. Enable HTML in email. That's fine. Save. Okay, I have that. Let me go on the case object to make sure that the settings I need to put there is right. Case page layout. The case layout. Okay. All the fields are there, because you have to be careful as well. You have to know that the fields in the email is getting populated as well, because you cannot just send whatever is not available in the case emails. Okay, so you click on that, and going back to this, refresh. Go to emails, and is there a particular? Just 1 minute. I'm thinking about the record type. There's no issue with record type. When? And I click on this. Okay, let me look at the suggestions for article. So I'll just go straight to article setup, just to be sure. We have the visibility, that's fine. We have the page layouts, that's fine. Associate article by opening the interest, that's fine. Enable email to case, if not enabled, that's fine. Go to page layout, select fields, enable articles inline. Go to knowledge, select communication, create new communication, select fields to include email, that's fine. Create data groups. Okay, I don't think we've missed anything, but then again, it has to do with the category. So let me see if I can use a different case. Okay, close case. Not close case, that doesn't make sense. Go to this. Oh, okay. Is this article published? Let me just open it. Yeah, it's published. Just give me 1 minute. Let me check the support settings just to make sure we are not missing any settings. I don't think we're missing any settings. Enable case notification contacts, trigger enable notification owners. That's fine. Show cases. That's fine. Enable email drafts. I don't need all that. Okay. So that should work out of the box. But again, I need to come back to that. I need to come back to that. We still have a lot to cover. So let's just put a stop on that for a minute. Sometimes it takes, depending on the fields you have dragged, in the communication channels, depending on the fields, if you go to knowledge, okay, depending on the fields you've dragged in the communication channel, depending on these fields, the process can take a while. but eventually it's going to come up. Okay. So let's just kind of like leave this for now and come back to this in before the end of the class so we can test it. Okay. So now that I've set up the article, I've set up the knowledge, I need to set up the chat. Okay. I need to set up the chat and I need to set up community. Before I can set up chat, I need to set up community. How do you set up community? The first thing you do is you go to experience, you go to settings, and you enable digital experiences, okay? Then you type in whatever website you plan to use on your first.com. However, you can also use your own personal domain. But first.com for your testing, eventually you will publish your domain and you'll be able to use it. So now I will go to domain name, which is, I can just call it Black Force Support. You check the availability of it. It's available. You save. This is how to create an experience or a community website, okay? It's very important you use the community website or you use a website that is real for you to create your chat, because the place you put in your chat is very important. Now that you've enabled digital experience, you need to click on new. And if you click on new, you'll be able to create a new site. A new site is a public site your user or your customers can go to and see. Okay, you have this site. I click on customer service and I click on get started. And I just call it maybe help desk. Okay, so help desk is like a place where you can go to and find out information about frequently asked questions, topics, and the likes. Okay, so while this is building, we can go to sites. So once you've enabled digital experience, you'll be able to see your sites. Okay, you go to sites and you go to all sites. This is all you need. Okay, refresh this. You should be able to see. Okay, the site is still loading. Yeah, the site is still building. So it takes a few minutes, but eventually when it builds, you'll be able to see all sites in your digital experience. You need to copy the sites while you are creating your chat, okay? Because you need the link for the URL in order to place it in your chat. And because of that link, you'll be able to use chat on the external website. So please be patient while this is building. It takes about 2 to 3 minutes, but eventually we'll be able to get our URL once it's ready. So let me just refresh this again and see if, okay, still building. So while this is building, okay, it's done. It's done right now. So I can go back to my setup, okay? Or I can go to digital experiences. Again, obviously, if you're interested in that, you can check the manual out. Okay, don't show me again. I'm not interested. Get started. Okay, let me just look for it here. Refresh. Okay, the site is ready right now. So I'm just going to copy this, okay? I copy this, then I go to my service setup in order to set up my chat, okay? I go to view all, and I look for the chat with customer. You can also type it here to quickly find the chat. You go to stats. The chat, you want to type in whatever you want to type. It could be chat, which is fine. And you can call this whatever you want to call it, support team or operations team. Okay. And you click on next. Okay. Again, I explained this earlier. This is the amount your agent can take based on their capacity. So you don't want your agent to be taking 20 at a time, because 20 is the maximum they can handle. So why would you want to give them 20 at a time? It doesn't make sense. This is used for routing. And I think next week, by the time we get into omni-channel, we'll be able to do more of routing and how this works. Okay. You go to next And this is the reason why we created the community chat. The community we created here, we use the URL here. Okay, it's very important to use a valid URL that you're going to be publishing your chat on. Okay, you go to next and you say, okay, I want a service and I want service enabled. Depending on the license you have, you can enable sales, you can enable service, but because we're doing Service Cloud right now, I want service enabled. Okay, I click on next, and I don't want offline support. I click on next. Okay. Then I don't need to copy this code because automatically we can grab the code from embedded deployments. Okay. I click on next and the chat is done. Okay. That's how to set up the chat. So now we have knowledge, we have articles, we have chats, we have experience sites. What we need to do is now to build our site. Okay. We want to build our site, and that requires us to use topic. Topic, you can use your topic and articles. You can use topics to merge articles, and you can communicate whatever articles you have in your internal website, internal application to the community site. Okay. So now that I have this, I go to my experience, which is, let me just go to setup and go to all sites. I want to go to the experience, okay? All sites. They call it experience, they call it community. When I was working on this previously, it used to be called community, but now Salesforce is calling it experience, okay? Digital experience, okay? But I used to call it community when I started working on this, but then again, it has changed to experience, meaning that you can integrate chat, you can integrate SMS, you can integrate whatever you want to integrate, okay? But for now, let us work with content. I want to display content, okay? So the content I want to display is topics. Now, the first thing you need to do is this. You need to go to topics and you want to create a navigational topics, okay? And the first navigational topic you want to create is probably the topic based on your categories. It's easier that way. I'm not saying that's what you should follow, but it is easier that way to create navigational topics based on your article categories. Remember, in your article categories, you have billing, okay? In your articles data categories, you have billing, you have subscription, you have billing, learning, and program, okay? So let's create topics based on that. I'm going to create billing. Okay, I had programs. I had then learning. I had, okay, and I save. So now I want to create as many articles so I can really use them in my community website. So I have one for, let me just create new article, and I'll call it manual, and I'll call it billing article sample, okay? And I put just a random billing test, okay? I make it visible. If you don't select visible to public customer, they will not be able to see this, okay? It's very important to select that. Then we go to new. Again, I just kind of like create different articles, and I just give them name. Learning, what is Service Cloud, okay? Then you have what is Service Cloud test, okay? And because I selected frequently asked question, Service Cloud is whatever makes your agent productive. Okay, customer-centric, agent productivity, whatever you want to define. Actually, this is the answer. And this is the question, okay? Okay, save. So now that we have that, we need to do one more thing before we start using topics. The first one thing we need to do is we need to enable topics, okay? Topics, enable topics for objects. enabling topic for objects would let us use topic externally. Okay. Then I select test and title, which is going to be my topic test. Okay. So now that we have that enabled, we can go back to our content management and go to what we call featured topic. So what we want to do here is we want to create featured topic for our community website. So I'll just say on billing, add, on learning, add, and on programs, add. Okay, make sure you save once you've created. Now we've created navigational topics, which is this. We've created featured topics, which is this. Now let's manage articles under that topic. Okay, so I created few articles, but only 2 is coming out. The reason why others are not coming out is because we have not published that article. So let me go back again to my knowledge and I'll close this. This console tool is very powerful. It gives you flexibility to do a lot of things. Okay, I select this and I publish them. Okay, you're going to get this warning. Just click publish. That's fine. Okay, what happened? The status is published. That's fine. So go to all published articles, all draft articles. Click on this. Okay, this is fine. Go back to draft articles and publish. Okay. Then click on this, publish. Okay. So now we've published this article, right? So if I go back to my content management, I refresh this, I should be able to see those articles. Now they're coming up. So what you need to do here is you need to associate these articles to the topics you've created. Okay. You click on edit and you look for what is Service Cloud. This is learning. Okay. You associate it to learning. You look for billing article. You associate it to billing. You look for how to subscribe Blackforce. You associate it to billing, maybe. But make sure that all the topics get some visibility. There's program, right? Yeah. So now we have associated all these articles to topics. As you can see, we have built content, we have built article, and we are using topics to associate those articles. Okay. So now that we've done that, what we need to do now is just to go to Builder and make sure that our website is looking nice. You can read through these instructions. There's so many things you can do with Builder, but developers will get the luxury of working with community. As a consultant, I want you to be aware of it because awareness is very important when it comes to creating community, and you have to work in alignment with the developer. You cannot style this community if you don't know how to write code. I'll be honest with you. Some people actually get paid just to style community. But the bottom line here is, you know that this stuff exists in Salesforce, okay? So now I'm going to just click on navigation, and I will make sure that my topics is showing. If you want to call it something else, you can call it something else, but I'll call it topics. But I can add some other things, okay? I can add cases. Let's say I want to have cases to be shown on my community website. I can add cases. And what are cases? Cases are just Salesforce objects. Then you select case as the objects. You can make it publicly available if you want it to be publicly available. But obviously, you want people to sign in order to see their case. You don't want anyone to be able to see cases of other people, okay? I click on save. And now, as you can see the trending topic, okay? You can see the trending topic and you can see featured based on the categories we've selected, okay? And these are the topics. So once you have this, the next thing you just need to do is drag whatever you want to drag, okay? Again, if you're a developer, you can write what they call lightning components. So lightning components will now feature, will now give you other things, other cool stuff. You can even add calendar, okay? You can add calendar to your community, but obviously you need to know why you're adding calendar to your community, okay? But let's add the chat, embedded chats, which we did yet the other time. I'm going to add it here. So now it's telling me that Embedded chats is trying to access a Salesforce website that this community is not aware of. Okay? Don't worry about it. Click on Don't Show Me and click on OK. But we need to do one thing in order to avoid that. Okay? We have to go to Settings and you go to Security and you make sure that you relax that security issue. Okay? Having relaxed that security issue, you now be able to allow that URL. Then you allow that URL that is trying to access the chat. Okay? Then this stuff comes up. You click on OK. That's fine. Okay? You click on OK. And what else do you want to do? You can look for other cool components on the website, on the component tab that you want to add. For instance, you might want to add another maybe text that says, welcome to BlackForce support page. Okay? You can browse all articles to guide you on BlackForce. Okay? You have that, you save. And it appears there again. You can do a lot of editing. Okay? If you know how to develop, you can use bold, you can use H1 tag. For instance, I can just change this to H1 tag and it is going to be a little bit bigger. Okay? If you know JavaScript, this is your bread and butter. Okay? So now that we have that, I can just, okay, I want to edit, maybe add some other stuff to the menu. I can, if I want to. For instance, I want cases. I already said that. I can make it publicly available. I want this. I can make it publicly available. And I just publish this page. Okay? So make sure you copy the URL so you can view this page once it's been published. It takes a few time for the page to be published. Now it is published. Okay? You open a new tab and you'll be able to see your community help desk. Okay? You can do anything you want to do. More importantly, you can change this. If you change this, it will come up. You go to welcome, you call it something else, help desk, BlackForce help desk. Again, this is not your responsibility. This is just for you to know how to do it, okay? And you publish again is going to make the changes once you publish, okay? You refresh this and the welcome will change, okay? So yesterday, I think we couldn't do the topics. That was because we did not create navigational topics. Remember, today we were able to create what they call navigational topics. That was the reason why the topic did not show yesterday. We missed this part, okay? So now we can see topics and we can see topics based on different programs, okay? Different learning and the likes. So now that we don't have that ready, we don't have that present, we can let our customer to ask us questions. So customer can now say, I want to ask question about billing. And how, when do I get charged? Okay, when do I get charged? The customer asks a question and a support agent can come and say, you get charged every end of the month. Okay, so as you can see, Salesforce is letting you take the ad task away from the support agent and is bringing it easier. What is the benefit of this compared to email to case? Email to case, you have to constantly reply the customer. But with community, you don't have to reply the customer. You just let the customer log in and they can relate. They can ask their question and they can see answers to their question. Okay? And they can see trending topic. Customers can see all those trending topics because this website does not look styled. It looks boring, but in ideal situation, this stuff will look cool. This stuff will look cool. This is what Salesforce is using on their website. Everything we have here is what Salesforce is using on their website. The agent, let's chat. What can you do? You can change it to let's chat. If you don't want it to be, agents offline, you can change whatever it is right now to whatever you want it to be. Okay. So chat with an agent, call it let's chat. Okay? If agent is offline, call it oops. You can just call it oops. Oops, we missed. Okay? Something like that, right? Oops, we missed. And if the agent is online, you call it let's chat. So let's try to see if we can put the agent online. Go back to your front end. Okay? Try to add this thing, enable omni-channel, but that will be a bit sorry, my computer just so if you have refresh, you can enable omni-channel, and if you enable chat, you will be able to have, let's add chat session. Okay, you had chat session. Save, and you go to setup. You can chat. Okay, go to chat. Again, this is omni-channel. I don't want to start doing all this because we haven't gotten there yet. Okay, but you can do a lot of configuration for your chat. For instance, you can enable the profile of the operation team that can have access to chat, and you'll be able to enable omni-channel, but we're going to do that next week. So I don't want to get into all those stuff right now. But then again, you can do all this configuration once you are ready to set up omni-channel. And one other thing you can do is you can add what's it called? You can add the omni-channel to your service console. Okay, you go to the service, and you can just add it to your utility, okay? Or omni-channel is there by default, okay? Because you've enabled the chat, so that's fine. And you can refresh. Refresh, go to case. Okay, go to case. And go to any case, that's fine. Then you can make yourself available online. Okay, and go to your website, which is this, refresh. Okay, I'll be taking the chat. Let's see the chat. Let's see our website. Publish this. Okay, and preview. Sorry, go to what's the URL? URL is home. Okay, chat with an expert. Okay, you put in your details. Okay, you put in your details, and you built a community that doesn't require email support. You put your article. So this agent will pick up the call. This guy is trying to pick up the call, collects the call. Okay, the agent has accepted the call and is going to say hello. And if you have quick test, you can also, it's going to say hello. If you have quick tests in this org, you can also use quick tests to introduce yourself. And this guy will come here and say the hello and say, how can I subscribe to Black Force? Okay. The agent will see it and the agent will reply, okay, good. You can subscribe, whatever you want to do, you type, and you have built a website within few minutes that requires no code, just community out of the box. You can change this URL to your own URL. You can style this website to Black Force team. You have all this discussion here, and you can ask questions based on your area of interest. Your agent can now reply that question, okay? And guess what? You can also contact support by creating a case, okay? You create a case, and the case will get automatically created in the system, okay? Whatever it is, you submit, and if you go to the cases back end, you can see new cases that get created in the system, okay? So this is a case you created. You've created a community website that would help you communicate with your customer without having to send an email. You've created a live chat that will let you communicate without sending an email, okay? This was what I planned to show you yesterday, but something happened. Unfortunately, we couldn't show it, but today I'm glad that we're able to get something done. So I'm going to put a pause here. I've been speaking for the past 1.5 hours. I'll let you ask questions regarding what we've just done and the use case, because everyone in this room, as long as you're a professional, you will be doing this and you'll be submitting your projects. Okay. I will be able to communicate with you. You will turn up your chat and I'll be able to chat with you. So if you cannot do that, you cannot graduate from this course. Okay. So please raise up your hand if you have any questions so I can address those questions and we can move on. Okay. So please raise up your hand and let's talk. If you have any questions, please raise your hand and I'll call you according to how your hands are being raised. Thank you. Okay, I hope I've not overwhelmed you guys with a lot of information, but this is what we have to do, okay? It's part of the requirement for Service Cloud. And if you ever want to be a consultant, this is something you probably need to know, okay? It's something you need to know. And it's something I would expect you to be able to do in order to be successful at consulting as a Salesforce Service Cloud consultant. Okay, so I'll call you according to your hands are raised, and you can ask me any question. Babs, can unmute yourself and speak, please.
Good evening, Babatope. Thank you again. Appreciate it. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Excellent. Thank you again for a great class. I have two questions. One of them is on the knowledge. When we work on the knowledge, I have a question. Does it allow the ability for us to rank the frequently asked questions over time? What I mean by that, obviously, is where I'm going also is what I started with yesterday, which has to do with being able to use AI kind of for power to see, okay, which are the most frequently asked questions. Maybe they can refine it over time to make sure that indeed they're the ones that bubble up. I'm just thinking about that. I don't know if it's futuristic. I don't know if indeed that capability is in place now. That's my first question. The other one is also on what we just learned. My question there is, can you build customized themes inside the community? Basically, things like plugin. I'm just curious to know if it allows you. And also, I assume it's also mobile optimized, right? Meaning you can actually use your phone to actually get the same capability and obviously work the same way. Inside that also, I'm trying to see if it's also SEO enabled, meaning can it be such that people can search, like you can search this now and you see help.salesforce.com. Is this something that also happens? These are all kind of loaded in two questions. My apologies.
Okay, yeah, those are good questions. To answer the first question, there is what they call, if you look at articles, there is what they call the rating, the ups and down on the article. So based on this optical ups and down, you can rank articles, okay? Based on the views, you can rank articles based on views, okay? It's something Salesforce does behind the scene. You collect those data. For instance, if you go to the layouts, I think you should be able to see this article, whatever fields you have, you can put it on the layout so you can see, but something that internal fields, right? So let's say we have article number, article record type, article total views. Okay, this is a very key metric. This will determine how popular the article is, and you will be able to optimize that article for easy viewing. So people can actually see the article because it is well ranked and it is mostly used and stuff like that, okay? And in terms of AI, I think obviously Salesforce is optimized for mobile, is optimized for all this kind of stuff. So definitely it's something that probably if it's not in place right now, they are currently working on it. So I'm pretty sure they are thinking about whatever you're thinking. Trust me, Salesforce is growing rapidly, but then again, they need developers. They need people to use it. If people are not using Salesforce, all this cool stuff will just be there. Developers will charge a lot of money to create something that we created in less than 1 hour, 30 minutes. Developer can charge 50 grand, 100 grand to create this kind of stuff. And Salesforce is telling you, we just want $50 a month, we just $200 a month. You can have knowledge, you can have articles, you can have a community website that can optimize your agent's productivity. Okay? I hope that helps you. I hope that helps and answer the question.
Yes, it does, except the other one, which is, about obviously with WordPress that's very popular with SEO optimization. Is that something that also, I don't know if we did address that?
That again, I've not gone deeper into knowledge. We use community to build the registration. I think pharmacy care. I don't know if you guys ever book your COVID this thing using Sobis. We use community to build that, but then again, it's about the business. If the business is B2B, they might not need SEO. If the business is B2C, that requires customer to log in, that requires customer to have more customers. Maybe something like Black Force will need SEO, right? So if the business is B2B, you might not need SEO. Maybe your different audience is something you go and pitch to, something you go and sell. So SEO has to do with reaching out based on organic traffic, right? If you don't need organic traffic, you don't need to build that. But then again, in the content management, which we haven't gotten to, there's so much to do. Okay, if you go to content management, there are so many things you can do. You can connect to other applications, but I think there might be SEO, but you have to do it within the code. Okay, but there are so many plugins. Again, I don't work mostly with community. But as a developer, what I do is style community. I make community look beautiful. I make, like the basic stuff you see right now, I can turn it into Black Force website. And you just think that, how is Black Force doing it so rapidly? Is because we are using community. Okay. But then again, we haven't done that yet. So I don't need to blow our horns, but eventually I hope we do it. Okay. Afia, please.
Hi, Babatope. I have a question regarding one of the trails that we did. I think it was on Monday or Tuesday. And when we were setting up the chat, we did something with like force.com or something like that. So in the end result just looked like an empty page. And then there was just a chat there. And then you could go on there and then pretend like you're the agent and then come back. Now, we set up the community tonight. So was the community what was supposed to be done from the beginning? Is that the right thing to do? Or what is the difference between what was done on Monday versus setting up the community and then putting up the chat and then going to allow omni-channel? What is the difference?
That's a good question. And the reason why I had to tell Ogale to ignore that bit is because it takes time to even set up the experience. As you can see, Ogale was trying to set up the URL for you to use for the chat. That URL is where Salesforce tries to identify who owns this chat. As you can see, if you go to Black Force right now, we also have a chat on Black Force. I don't know if you guys have seen it. There's Black Force chat. It's just that we are not using it. Do you get what I mean? So if someone is online right now, this would be active, right? That's number one. Number two, when you're setting up your chat, you will be required to enter a URL. For our own URL, we use Black Force as the URL. Okay? We use Black Force as this URL. Can you see? Because we use Black Force as this URL, then we can place this chat on our website. So whatever URL you put there is where you want the chat to be. So if you put some random URL there, chances are your chat might not work. I don't know. But then again, you need to place the right URL for you to use chat on your website. Okay? So that's the benefit of creating the site before you create a chat. However, as you can see, you can bypass that step and just use a random URL. As long as you're using a Visualforce page, it's still going to work. Okay?
Okay. All right. Thank you.
No worries. Jane, please unmute yourself and speak.
Hi, Babatope. My question is about the setup and service setup. I noticed that you moved quite a bit between setup and service setup, and I was just wondering: is there a way we can distinguish the changes we make on setup versus service setup? such a way that if we want to make an edit or we want to change something, we know, okay, we're going here or we're going there, because I'm kind of lost at some point where we should be going to change what.
That's a good question. And to be fair, sometimes it's very confusing. Okay. Sometimes it's very confusing. But one thing you just need to know is that service setup has to do with service related setup. So if you're looking for something that has to do with service related setup, then you should be here. However, if you want to do something that has to do with normal Salesforce related stuff, then you can go to the setup. Okay. But there are some things that you might not see in the service related setup. And some people only have the service cloud license. Okay. That's why sometimes you can switch between, but then again, there is no right or wrong answer to this. If you cannot find it in the service setup, it's going to be in the normal setup. It's just to streamline things that Salesforce needs to display to you. Useful things that you can see. The normal setup is very busy and there's so many things you can do. But in service setup, you don't see all those things that you see here. You only see the things that are needed for service cloud setup. Okay? That's just the difference.
All right, thank you.
Yeah. Olumide, Eko, unmute yourself and speak, please.
Thank you very much, Babatope. And now, speaking of which, so it doesn't really matter if you switch between the service setup and the normal setup. Whatever you enable will work in both org. Is that correct?
No, I wouldn't say that. There are some things you cannot do in the normal setup. You have to go to service setup to do it. Okay. Okay.
All right. And secondly, in the last during the latter part of the session where we were training, you were especially during the back and forth exchange of chats, right, messages. Did you enable omni-channel for that to happen, or it can happen even whilst you're using chat itself?
I believe once you enable chat, omni-channel automatically comes in play. And you just need to make yourself available for you to
all right. All right. That's all. Thank you. All right.
Okay. Olumide, please unmute yourself and speak.
Hi, Babatope. Still on the service setup and the setup, I can see there is a permission set in the service setup, but you had to go to the setup to really create one the other time. Is it that you cannot use that in the service setup, or?
To be honest with you, it's just my line of thoughts, right? My line of thoughts says go to permission set, and I was like, okay, I go to permission set in the setup. But then again, if it's available there, you can use it. The same permission set is still available. It's just that you might be limited in terms of the things you can do. However, permission set is universal in Salesforce, and you can use that permission set, okay? You can use the same permission set as the one you see in your normal setup, okay? Okay, I think Olumide muted himself, so we have to move on. So now let me give you some questions that you're likely to see in your certification exam if you are writing the Salesforce exam. Okay, I'm going to read it out, then you will be able to see it. Okay, so now you'll be able to tell me what the answer is. A service manager has recently implemented Salesforce Knowledge. Which three metrics should the manager use to measure the success of the implementation? The number of success keyword searches, the number of content packs attached to the cases, the number of articles associated with the cases, the number of published article views, the number of charter files attached to the cases. You can just put your this thing in the chat so I know which. Again, as you can see, the questions are more like intuitive. It's your understanding, not really in terms of, oh, there's a right or wrong answer. You have to think critically to answer this question. I have implemented knowledge. How do I know that this knowledge is working? If people are attaching articles to cases, what does that tell you? It tells me that something is working because they are using the article. If I can see a number of published articles, that's also good. And a number of keywords, okay? So that's my own thoughts. But then again, it's up to you to decide what you feel the answer is. How would you do this if you're a consultant? Okay, so this is the answer I'm choosing. Okay. What approach should a consultant use to ensure that knowledge searches only display articles for a service agent product specification? Use escalation rules for notification and case teams to monitor cases. Create a data category for each product. Assign data categories to the service agent. Create an article action for each record type. Assign record types to service agent. Create a permission set for each record type. Assign permission to the service agent. Create a page layout for each record type. Assign layouts to, okay, you guys already know the drill. The answer is B, okay? So I don't think we touch base on that, but we know that data category would be used to display articles for a particular service agent, okay? And you assign that data categories to the service agent using profiles or roles, okay? That's how you would do that. I think we actually touched it, just that this was a question based on our understanding of data category. Now, Universal Container is implementing the customer community using the customer service template. One of the requirements is for the members to be able to find knowledge articles based on the product type. How should the consultant satisfy this requirement? Utilize topic tags for each product type, set visibility to the categories, define article types with sharing settings, enable suggested articles in the community. Again, think critically what we just did and answer this question. How should they satisfy this? I want to be able to, members to be able to find knowledge article based on the product type. Based on the product type. What are you guys selecting? Okay, I think the answer is this. Utilize topic stacks. This is what we did, right? UC would like for articles to be suggested to agent based on information they are typing in the case. What solution should a consultant recommend? Enable knowledge sidebar related to the list on the case page layout. Create Visualforce page called knowledge sidebar on the case layout. Create a Service Cloud console and enable the knowledge sidebar on the case page layout. Enable knowledge sidebar settings in the case support settings. This is straightforward. This is what we did today. We just literally, when you have a case, you can just have the knowledge sidebar, okay? The knowledge sidebar you can enable and you can see, okay? On the service console. To help service agent more accurately respond to cases, UC wants a list of relevant knowledge articles displayed on the record type, on the case record page. How should a consultant configure this requirement? Add the knowledge-related list to the case record page. Add the knowledge tab to the service console. Add the knowledge component to the case record page. Add the knowledge data categories to the case. So how should we do this? Remember, when you're working with this page, what do you do when you edit this page? What do? You add components. These are components, okay? You add the knowledge components to the page. Component is what you're adding to the page, okay? So I think C is the answer, okay? Then we go to this. Northern Trail Outfitter has implemented Salesforce Knowledge and the service manager wants to encourage agents to use knowledge base. Which metric should the service manager monitor? Number of article votes, number of archived articles, number of approved articles, number of customer rating. So you want to find out if the agents are using the knowledge base as expected, okay? So what would you do? You want to find out the number of article votes, okay? And the last one, I think that's the last one. Yeah, that's the last one, okay? And I think that's all for tonight. Again, thanks for your audience. Apologies, we have to do this again, but it's very important we do this and we get it right instead of assuming that everyone understands what I did yesterday, okay? So if you guys have any questions, please let me know now because this is gonna be part of your your project, okay? So please let me know now. You guys replicate whatever I've done tonight. You will replicate it in your project, okay? So if you don't have any questions, okay, Abisola, you have a question, unmute yourself and speak.
Just a quick one. You mentioned that you were going to update the quiz app. So I just wanted to ask when you are looking to update it.
The quiz app for Service Cloud will be updated over the weekend, so you can start practicing your Service Cloud mock certification. But then again, we haven't finished, so there's still a lot of things you need to know when it comes to Service Cloud. But again, if you're interested in the certification, obviously, there is a different approach to certification. Like I usually say, certification does not determine the knowledge. The knowledge is what you gain from the class. Certification is what's make your profile looks good. So please still attend class regardless of whether you have the certification or not. But I will try to update the quiz app this weekend, and you'll be able to use the quiz app to practice in your for your certification. Okay, so I will try my best this weekend. It's just that I need to be explaining stuff, and I wouldn't have enough time to explain the answer, but I will still try to put the answer there. Okay, so expect that over the weekend, latest on Monday. Afia, please, do you have any question, Afia?
Yes, I do. I think today you had mentioned that on Thursdays we were going to go through super badges or something like that. Are we going to do that or?
Yes. So as you can see, it's the time is almost spent, so we cannot do that today. However, you will do that going forward on Thursdays. Okay, I will not be teaching on Thursdays, but you will be doing the super badge. I expect everyone to Service Cloud. I want everyone to be ready for the super badge. I'm going to group you into 2, 3, depending on your subscription. It's only people that are subscribed that will have access to the super badge classes. So I will group you based on your subscription, and you will be able to do your super badge. But more importantly, you need to be ready. So I don't want your mentor to actually do that super badge for you, but I want you to be ready, and your mentor will just be guiding you through. Oh, have you done this? Have you done that? But they wouldn't tell you the exact solution, because super badge is also a qualification. Super badge is also an approval that you know the Service Cloud. Okay. So before next week, Thursday, also over the weekend, we're going to start the super badge training. Okay. So make sure you've completed this 4, because without this, your mentor cannot even start. So make sure you've completed this 4, and your mentor will have a very good landing to start working on the super badges, okay? And as you can see, even myself, I've not finished it because super badge takes time. It takes time, but then again, you can do it if you're dedicated. I have like 3 more to go, but I'll definitely complete it maybe over the weekend or so. But please make sure you have this ready. I asked your mentor to finish this today, and he has also finished this yesterday, I believe. Then you can do this. This is very easy. You can do this. Then on Saturday, maybe on Sunday, be ready for your first session on the super badge classes, okay? And next week, Thursday, we're going to have another super badge session. But please, look at, let me tell you something, guys. This stuff is very hard. I wouldn't lie to you. It's very hard, but the people that are committed will see difference in their life. You'll be amazed what you will get if you're committed. All this stuff, I did not know them because I started Salesforce. I knew them because I was committed to Salesforce. When I was introduced to community for the first time 2 years ago, I didn't know what community was. But then again, I finished a trail on community, and I wouldn't call it expert on community, but I know what community is, and I can teach you what community is. I want you guys to be able to teach others community. That's the only way we can sustain this ecosystem. People are getting $350K a year on Salesforce. People are getting a lot of money just by knowing what community is and how to use community. And they talk about community. So why not just spend time to master this so you can also be earning $350K instead of $80K a year or $85K a year? Do you get what I mean? So please don't see me as a genius of this. Everything I learned, everything I teach you guys is on trails. You guys can learn it by yourself, but it's also good to see how it works from an holistic point of view. Then when you now go on the trails, it becomes easier. It's like a deja vu. You've seen this before. It becomes easier to learn. Okay? So please don't rely just on this training. Also go and learn and be able to teach others. I want you guys to be a mentor. Project is not project is due on Sunday, and I'm going to be walking you through the solution as well. But please try to be committed. Lastly, I want to show you how to submit your project. So if you go on the Blackforce website, you go to, or you can just go to hot.single login, and you can log into the single login. Okay, you go to single login. You have to be a subscriber, okay? If you're not a subscriber, you cannot submit a project. Regardless, you have to be a standard subscriber, or you have to be a professional for me to even accept your project. That's number one. I'm going to have a one-on-one review with the professionals, but for the standard, we're going to have a group review together, okay? I need to know that everyone is well taken care of regardless, but for the standard, I just need to kind of like meet you as a group. But for the professionals, definitely I need to have a one-on-one with you. But before I can have a one-on-one with you as a professional, you need to get your certificates, you need to get your resume, and you need to complete your project 1 and 2. Okay? Now you go to My Learning. Okay? You click on My Learning, which is a Blackforce website, and you go to Submit Projects. Okay? You go to Submit Projects, and you will fill your details. You will select the billing projects, okay? Select your individual projects, billing project. Fill your subject, whatever. If you have any comment for me, if you have anything you want to say, put that comment here, and you select the program you've registered for, okay? You select the file, obviously your project file, and you submit. What is your project file? Your project file is a screenshot of all the objects, the schema, which I'm going to send via email after tonight or maybe tomorrow morning. The schema, the objects, the records you uploaded into the system, and the total billing. I want to see everything as a screenshot, put them into a PDF file, and attach them as a PDF file. So when you submit it, I get it in my Salesforce, and I can access it. When I access it, I'll grade you and I'll send you a feedback. Okay? Please, you have to log in. You have to be a registered member to submit your project. You cannot submit project as a basic member. Okay? So please respect that. Only submit projects if you are a registered member. And I will get to know anyway because it's automatic. Okay? So log in into Blackforce. You can log in 2 ways. Log in using your single login, or log in with your credentials like you did before, and just select Blackforce. If you already log in, this stuff will come up. And this is also how to log in to Blackforce, okay? And once you log in, it's going to load this, submit projects, fill in your details, attach your file, and you submit, okay? For the Service Cloud consultant that are registered for Service Cloud specifically, you will get an individual project. Also, I recommend you do the admin project, but you get an individual project for Service Cloud. Please do that project as well. Everything is preparing you for the real world. Real world, you'll be thrown anything. You'll be thrown anything. Trust me, you just get a job, and the next thing they will tell you to build a community cloud. And what is the relationship between community cloud and Service Cloud? Nothing, but they will still ask you to do it. So be ready to learn everything. Be ready to know everything about Salesforce in order for you to be successful. And please try to get as many certifications as possible. Some people usually just give you money because you're doing certification. Some companies pay you to go and do certifications. Why can't you just do it now and be getting that extra pay instead of getting rewarded pay for doing certification? You can actually get higher pay because of the number of certifications you have. Okay, I think that's all from me. I hope you have a good class. Apologies for yesterday, but I think I've been able to explain the knowledge and the community again. And I hope you guys understand. If you have any questions, please ask your group leader, ask a mentor, and be ready for your super badge on weekends and subsequent classes next week. Okay? Bye for now. Take care of yourself, and I will speak to you when I see you. Bye, everyone. Bye.